Hello, my name is Orinoco, and I'm here to help you understand how your engine works that little bit more than you already do. This is a two-stroke engine inside this buggy. Now, it would appear that some of you don't quite understand how a two-stroke engine actually works. I had this comment yesterday, and don't run idle too low. Less fuel equals less oil, by Chris. Now, Mr. Chris, I'm very much afraid to inform you that actually with two-stroke engines, the lower the tick over actually means more oil. Now, two strokes, you could say the word suffer. Would you call it suffer? I don't know. But they suffer from a lot of oil building up in the crankcase if the RPMs are too low. So, to your comment there, Mr. Chris, and to anybody else who wants to know how this works, a low tick over with a two-stroke petrol. It's important that we use the word petrol because we're talking about RC cars and they don't have diesel engines. Let's take a little side note here. With an ordinary four-stroke petrol car which has oil in a sump or a dry sump but that has an oil pump, too low RPMs for a tick over can cause that pump not to work efficiently and deliver enough oil to all of the relevant parts. Because the pump is spinning too slow, the pressure will drop. Same for diesel engines, four-stroke diesel engines, and also two-stroke diesel engines. Now this is interesting, I must point this out, because one of my little friends, which I've made upon YouTube and on Instagram, never heard of a two-stroke diesel. I had to enlighten him the other day. Anyway, they have oil in the sump. They don't run any kind of oil in with the diesel. So a two-stroke diesel would have the same problem. Anything that has an oil pump, if the tick over is too low, it can cause low oil pressure because the pump is not spinning fast enough to pressurize the oil and squirt it on the pistons, the bearings, the crank and all the other places and up onto the head, etc, etc. But with a two-stroke petrol, where you don't have oil in a sump or a dry sump, you don't have any oil, you don't even have an oil pump, because as we know, the oil is mixed in with the petrol. So the way that it works, I'll use a nitro engine to explain it, because they're also two-stroke. So this is a block off of a T15 nitro engine, but it'll be sufficient to explain to you lot how a two-stroke engine works. This is where the carburetor would go and the fuel would go in. It is exactly the same, more or less, as a two-stroke engine you would find in a 1/5 scale or equivalent RC car. So you can imagine how this is going to work. Imagine that there like that. Carburetor is there, carburetor is there, okay? Piston is in there, piston is down in there. This is the head. This engine hasn't got the head on, but it would be here. Okay, so it's the same. So the carburetor is there. The fuel goes in to the crankshaft. Fuel goes in into the crankshaft. Mixes around a bit, oils up the crank and all the bearings. And then when the piston goes down, it then sucks, creates a vacuum in the combustion chamber, sucks up the fuel from the crankshaft. It goes through those. Oh yeah. Oh, this engine's seized up. I can't turn it. Bad example. But on the side, there is little holes on the side of the cylinder. Excuse me. I didn't mean to do that. Cough. Sometimes you just can't help things like that. Anyway, so the vacuum is created in the combustion chamber because the piston is going down. It sucks the fuel up from the crankshaft and pushes it out at the same time the exhaust out there. The fuel is now in the combustion chamber and the piston is going back up and oiling the sides, the sides of the cylinder walls while it is in there, and oiling up the piston while it is in the combustion chamber. And then bang, the oil and petrol gets burned, forces the piston down, blows the fumes out the exhaust, and again a vacuum is created inside the combustion chamber to suck new fuel and air up into the piston, into the combustion chamber, into the cylinder. Hopefully you understand how that works now. So, if the RPMs are low, yeah, or you just leave it on tick over for any length of time, the oil with the petrol is going into the crank, in there. That's going round and round. Look, right, oiling up all the crank, the big end bearing, and the bottom of the con rod, and the small end bearing up there as well. It's oiling all of that up. It's flying around in there, and because the RPMs are low, right, when the vacuum is created, it's not enough to suck up all of the oil, and some of it gets left in the bottom of the crank. And obviously that's happening, I don't know how many times, what sort of RPMs these tick over at. I'm going to hazard a guess at something, I honestly don't know what these would tick over at sort of RPM wise. I'm going to say 700 RPM, something like that. I mean, that might be a lot less. I mean, that I'm not, that I don't know off the top of my head. I know a lot of stuff, but not that. But anyway, I like to run a nice low tick over on a 2-stroke engine and on a 4-stroke, but particularly 2 strokes. Nice low tick over. So it's happening loads of times per minute. And so loads of oil starts to build up on the bottom here. So if you've ever realised or noticed you let your car tick over for any reason, you might have a phone call, talk to a friend or something, and then when you go on the throttle again, it'll be a bit sort of sluggish, loads of smoke will come out the exhaust. That's because you're raising the revs, you're raising up the RPMs, and it's starting to suck up all the oil that was left in the bottom of the crank, and it's burning that off in the combustion chamber. And then once it's sucked it all up and burned it off, you'll notice that it's back to its performance again, and it goes quick again, and the smoke isn't quite as bad. That is why, my friends. So for all of you lot that think that having a 2-stroke engine like this one with a low tick over is bad for it because it means it will get less oil, it's the opposite. It isn't necessarily good for it, and I'll explain why in a second, but it's the opposite. It will get more oil. The higher the RPMs, the less oil it'll have. So if you're blasting around a field flat out, this is why it's no good. Those of you that blast around fields flat out in great big circles, flat out without any brake, you're actually starving your engine of oil. Now you can get around this if you know you're going to be doing flat out speed runs with your RC car with a petrol engine. You need to make sure you mix up the oil and petrol richer than usual. I run mine rich anyway. I run 20 to 1, something like that, 25 to 1, 20 to 1. I don't even measure it. I just pour the oil in and it's as dark as you can imagine. I just do. The downside to that is you foul up plugs quite a lot if you do a lot of low RPMs. So if you're letting your engine tick over a lot, you might foul the plug every now and again. It won't start. Take it out, give it a clean, put it back in. I've done a video on how to clean spark plugs. It may or may not be up at this point, but it will be up at some point when you're watching this, and you can go and watch that video and you'll see how to clean your spark plug. But yeah, so there you go, you lot. That's just something I needed to explain. Because when I see people giving out the wrong information, it is a bit annoying because that will circulate and it'll just cause a myth. And we don't like myths that are wrong. So, there we go, you lot. Nice one. I'll catch you on the next one. Any questions or anything like that, put it in the comments. If it's worth it, I'll make a video. If not, we'll just comment and help you out. All the best, you lot. Thanks for watching. And remember, it doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, what language you speak, what country you're from. We're all the same. Everybody should be treated the same. Look after each other, you lot. And just enjoy life, yeah? Ciao for now.